As Confucius says, our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising when we fall. And today we are all here together, having risen from arguably one of the most challenging chapters we're going through as an industry. Last year when we were together virtually, I shared my passion for photographing doors and how opening doors to new perspectives could help us shift from what might feel like surviving to thriving. Little did we know at that time how much we would all be tested, and that the only door that I'd be photographing for the next year would be my home office door. Some of you already know about my deep appreciation for sticky notes, but for those of you who don't, I recognize it may appear like a borderline obsession. Sticky notes have been a great organizational tool for me to keep me on track and focused. But I must admit, this being the only door that I saw day in and day out for over a year got old really quickly. The isolation during the pandemic was hard on me. The day we went into quarantine, I suffered a major leg injury. I found it hard to get out of bed on weekends. I ate my weight in the Canadian National Treasure ketchup chips, and I rode the highs and the lows of booking and canceling 11 trips, each time convincing myself that I had the crystal ball knowing when travel would resume and the borders would reopen. But I also learned invaluable practices. With so much on pause, I was given the gift of time to focus on what really mattered and to find new pockets of joy in the things I had taken for granted before, like enjoying a beautiful sunset. And I invested my time differently to learn new things. Learning was a key theme for many of us, and today I'd like to share with you the 4 key practices that I learned, and it is my hope that you'll be inspired to implement one of these practices into your everyday to help you forge an even more compelling path forward. The key is to leverage this opportunity to emerge from this survival cocoon stronger than before. Of course, that's easier said than done. So what can we do to get closer to that? We can open our minds and hearts to the 4 key practices that helped me during this time. And the first one is about compassion, more specifically, self-compassion. As I shared earlier, I suffered a leg injury last year. Walking became excruciatingly painful. I had multiple sessions of acupuncture, physical therapy, dry needling, you name it, I tried it and nothing was working. Pre-pandemic, I was very active playing soccer. But after the injury, I found it hard to function without pain. And I quickly started telling myself a bitter story about how I was going to age out from playing soccer and that I no longer would be able to enjoy the simple things in life anymore, like walking my daughter Ciela to school. But then I had a realization. When a close friend of mine asked me how I would respond to the setback if it was Ciela. And my immediate response is that I would show her compassion and I would comfort her, and I certainly would not dress rehearse tragedy. This shift in perspective helped me realize that I had no control over the outcome and that I needed to show myself the same compassion and care. The key to maintaining a mindset of self-compassion is focusing on the first practice and what I now call the circle of control. An insight of author Stephen Covey that has always resonated with me is that there's a choice between being proactive by focusing on what we can do and influence versus being reactive by focusing on the things that are beyond our control. Like me getting worked up by the fact that my husband would always seem to be working on the basement renovation, with the saw buzzing at full volume, by the way, whenever I'd be hosting a webinar presentation. When I'd find myself being lulled into this mindset of frustration, I'd focus my energy on the circle of control. By choosing to focus on what I could control, I felt more positive and better equipped to manage whatever frustrations I was facing. The key takeaway to the circle of control practice is how to action this in your everyday. So here's what I'd like you to do when you get home. Grab a pad of sticky notes and make a list of all the things that take up your time and mental energy. You may want to consider the things that bring you joy and also those that stress you out. Write 1 thing per sticky note and then place them all on a wall. Review everything and then consider what you can and you cannot control. And then place the sticky notes of the things you can control on the inside of the circle and those that you cannot control on the outside of the circle. Think about what changes you'd like to make to your circle of control and plan your next steps. I would like to challenge you to choose at least 1 thing to focus on that's within your control and to choose one thing to stop expending your energy on that's outside of your control and to stick with it. Focusing on your circle of control will better allow you to lead to more efficiently serving your clients in a better mindset. And what I hope you'll experience is a sense of pride and excitement when you find opportunities to be proactive and focused on what you can control. Choosing self-compassion and mastering the circle of control mindset can help us move towards the second practice of authenticity. Authenticity is all about being unapologetically yourself. Choosing and understanding authenticity can be difficult at times because we can tell ourselves stories about how we think people want us to be, or we don't see ourselves and our unique gifts and abilities the way others do. But if you can embrace and up-level your authenticity, your circle of influence will expand exponentially. And what you'll find is that you'll start experiencing the world differently, because what people value and are drawn to in others is authenticity. This time brought me closer to my most authentic self. I'm very passionate about learning and reading. And so one of the most authentic things I was intentional about doing at the start of the pandemic was to establish the MS Masterminds Travel Advisor Book Club. And yes, we've read these books and we have very fruitful discussions, but it's become much more than that. In fact, I would say it's been one of the greatest silver linings of this chapter, because it's evolved into a tight-knit community that many of you here today are part of. Sticking to authenticity was key for me as it yielded many unexpected benefits, including relationships like these that are stronger today than they were before the pandemic. So what can you do to get closer to discovering your most authentic self? You can try this authenticity practice by author and educator Kathy Caprino. Ask 10 people in your life that you respect and admire what they see in you that's special and unique. You may want to ask your friends why they're drawn to a friendship with you, or your family, what makes you stand out as an individual, or your colleagues and peers, what sets you apart from others. And you may also want to consider taking a StrengthsFinder survey, as this will reveal further insights. And what you may discover is that there'll be an overlap between what you hear and you learn, and you may be surprised by how others see you. By simply jotting down your top 5 qualities that you hear from your network that are valued and unique on sticky notes and placing them somewhere where you can see them daily will be a great reminder to harness these insights and apply them to how you engage in your relationships. This intentional integration of your key strengths into your everyday and a commitment to being more authentic will allow you to be more consistently impactful with your clients and your loved ones. The key is to stick with it in your daily interactions. When you get comfortable with your most authentic self, moving towards the third practice of reconnection is much more powerful. Reconnection is arguably one of the top priorities everyone has coming out of the past year and a half. So what can you do to ensure that your reconnection efforts are fruitful while building your business? You can try this practice of assembling your own personal advisory board. Early on in the pandemic, when I was experiencing some challenges, I assembled my own personal advisory board, and their coaching and counsel has been invaluable. These are the people I turn to when I'm facing a big decision or when I need a new perspective. So I encourage you to think about doing the same thing. Who could you ask to be on your board? The ideal number is 5 or 6 people. Look for people who consistently give value with diverse experience, who cheer for your successes, and who are comfortable offering you an opposing point of view. Finding your potential board members should not be time-consuming or daunting. You can leverage your existing connections from within your network or ask for introductions where they could be helpful. Diversity on your board is also important to ensure you're getting the most well-rounded advice. So look to recruit people from a range of different industries with decidedly different backgrounds. Just like my board helped me during the last year and a half, your board can help guide you with roadblocks or opportunities with your business or your clients. So start today by jotting down a few names of potential board members on the sticky notes I've provided you with. No matter where you're at in your life or business, if you stick with it, you will certainly benefit from having a personal advisory board. This time has reinforced the importance of making the time we have count, which leads us to our last practice, engaging for impact. I found great reprieve from the lows of the past year and a half by focusing on what I could control and by trying to have a positive impact on others, by building the MS Masterminds community, by coaching those whose jobs were impacted by the pandemic, and by mentoring industry colleagues and peers. And the one remarkable thing that I saw across all of these interactions was the ability to deal with adversity. Studies have shown that people are better able to adapt to unpleasant certainty than they are able to adapt to uncertainty. And much of the scientific research about our ability to bounce back from adversity shows that having a sense of purpose and giving support to others has a significant positive impact on our well-being. So how can you leverage this practice with your clients? I would like to encourage you to look at it through the lens of how you can further strengthen your relationships with your clients by being more generous with your time and thought. If you can make your clients feel more important and heard and anticipate their needs and deliver what they want before they know it, your business will benefit. Engaging for impact can take many different shapes or forms. It can be something as simple as sending a note of gratitude, reaching out to a client to tell them how important they are to you, calling to say hello without any other agenda, or sharing a favorite memory you have of them. One of my favorite notes to send and receive has the subject line, "Thinking of you." It's a small detail, but yet still so meaningful. The key is how to integrate this practice of generosity into your everyday so that it becomes routine. I like to block out Friday afternoons when it's not as busy and my mind is clear to make my connection calls and send notes of gratitude. This intentional work to be more generous with your time will have a ripple effect, because what you'll find is that the joy you bring your clients will in turn bring you great joy too. If you can add engaging for impact as a key priority for your business and stick with it, what you'll find is that your client's bond to you will become much stronger. That's what makes this a passion and not just a job. That is true care. A few months ago, my coach asked me if I could turn back the clock and undo the last year and a half for myself, would I? Some of you may think that my answer was a quick yes, but unequivocally my answer was and still is no. It was a struggle and it was difficult, and of course I would undo all of the personal losses of others. But for myself, I have made the conscious choice to mark this chapter by the 4 practices of care that I learned: compassion, authenticity, reconnection, and engaging for impact. They opened my eyes to how profoundly important the care I experienced was to my personal and professional growth. How did these care practices shift your perspectives? We all had different journeys, and the practices I've shared are not intended to diminish the impact that the pandemic has had on anyone. Instead, it is my hope that we can remember how care can help us move towards creating an even more compelling future, and that you've heard something today that resonates with you, and that you'll be inspired to take forward at least one care practice into your everyday. Whether that's compassion by focusing on your circle of control, or authenticity by tapping into your true authentic self and leveraging your key strengths into your everyday, or reconnection by assembling an inspiring personal advisory board, or engaging for impact by being in service to your clients through the generosity of your time and thought. I hope that you can take one care practice forward as the silver lining of this time and stick with it. Thank you.